Mark didn't feel broke in the traditional sense. He wasn't struggling to survive. His bills were paid on time. His life looked stable from the outside. Friends assumed he was doing fine, and technically, he was. But every month followed the exact same pattern. The salary arrived, the pressure disappeared for a moment, and then, almost quietly, the money faded away again. No crisis, no reckless spending, no obvious financial mistakes he could point to. Just a persistent feeling that something wasn't working. It felt like running on a treadmill, constant movement without real progress. And eventually, one question started repeating in his mind. How can someone do everything right and still stay in the same place? What Mark discovered later wasn't dramatic. It was worse. Because the thing draining his money didn't look dangerous. It looked completely normal. The assumption most people live with. Most people carry a quiet belief they rarely question. I just need a slightly higher income. When life becomes less stressful, I'll finally start saving. This phase is temporary. These thoughts feel responsible. They feel patient. They even feel mature. Mark believed them for years, and nothing forced him to challenge those ideas, until one completely ordinary Tuesday changed how he looked at his life. Part 1. The moment that felt wrong. There was no financial emergency. Nothing broke. Nothing went wrong. It started with something small. A receipt. $14.50 for coffee and breakfast. The same order he had placed hundreds of times before. Normally, he wouldn't even glance at it. It was part of the routine, almost invisible. But that morning felt different. He stood there a little longer than usual, not shocked, not worried, just slightly uncomfortable, without understanding why. Then he noticed something strange. It wasn't the price, it was the repetition. Same cafe, same order, same automatic payment, every morning blending into the next. And for the first time, a thought interrupted the routine. What if this isn't small anymore? Where most people look away, most people experience moments like this, and almost immediately they dismiss them. It's just coffee. It's harmless. It doesn't matter. And they're partly right. Coffee itself isn't the problem. The danger hides somewhere else. Repetition quietly transforms small choices into powerful long-term outcomes. Mark decided to do something most people avoid. He decided to look at the numbers honestly, not to punish himself, just to understand reality. Part 2. The math people rarely finish. That evening, he opened a spreadsheet. Not because he wanted to become strict with money, he simply wanted clarity. 5 workdays at $14.50 per day. $72.50 each week, around $290 per month. At this point, many people would close the file and move on. The number feels noticeable, but still acceptable. Mark kept going, because weekends followed a similar pattern. Brunch with friends, extra coffee, small convenience purchases that felt deserved after a long week. Another $200 disappeared almost effortlessly. Now the total approached $500 every month. And that's when something shifted. He realized he wasn't actively deciding to spend that money. He had built a system that spent it for him. The invisible system running daily life. Mark stepped back and asked a more uncomfortable question. Did he actually enjoy those purchases? He expected the answer to be yes, but it wasn't. The habit no longer brought excitement or satisfaction. It simply filled space in his routine. Somewhere along the way, a conscious choice had quietly turned into a default behavior. And defaults are powerful, because once something becomes automatic, you stop evaluating whether it still improves your life. Look at your own routine for a moment. Subscriptions you barely open. Delivery apps you use without thinking. Convenience expenses that feel normal but rarely memorable. This isn't intentional spending, it's automated living. Part 3. The experiment. Instead of changing everything overnight, Mark tried something smaller. He framed it as an experiment. 30 days, one adjustment. No cafe breakfast or morning coffee purchases. Nothing extreme, just one interruption in an otherwise predictable system. The first days felt inconvenient. He missed the familiarity. By day 3, the change felt irritating. By day 7, the temptation to return was strong. Because breaking habits doesn't feel like gaining freedom at first. It feels like losing comfort. And that emotional resistance is exactly where most people stop. Mark almost did too, but curiosity kept him going. He wanted to know what would happen if he stayed consistent just a little longer. Part 4. The Shift. Around the third week, something unexpected happened. The discomfort faded. The new routine stopped feeling temporary. Mornings became quieter. He moved slower, thought more clearly, felt less rushed. By week 4, he realized something surprising. He didn't feel deprived. He felt lighter. He hadn't removed something meaningful from his life. He had simply corrected an unconscious default. Part 5. The number that changed his perspective. When he checked the numbers again, the difference was undeniable. Daily spending dropped from $14.50 to roughly $2.50, about $12 saved each day, more than $4,000 per year. Closer to $5,000 when weekends and small extras were included. No complicated budgeting system. No extreme discipline, just awareness applied consistently. But the money wasn't the real transformation. The part most people miss. Saving $5,000 alone doesn't create wealth overnight. That's not the point. The real change was psychological. For the first time, Mark felt agency. He realized his finances weren't controlled by income alone. They were shaped by invisible patterns, and once awareness appears, it spreads. Part 6. The Second-Order Effect. He started noticing other automatic behaviors, unused subscriptions, impulse purchases disguised as rewards, convenience expenses replacing intentional decisions. One small adjustment revealed dozens of hidden patterns, and slowly small improvements began compounding. Not dramatically, but reliably. Part 7. From Habit to System. Mark didn't stop spending money, he started directing it. Some savings moved into a low-cost index fund. Some funded travel experiences he genuinely valued. Some simply reduced financial stress. The difference wasn't restriction, it was conscious allocation. Over years, even modest repeated changes can grow into tens of thousands. Not guaranteed, but realistic. And most importantly, repeatable. Final. This story was never about coffee, and it was never really about $5,000. It's about awareness. Right now, parts of your life are running automatically, not because they are valuable, but because they became familiar. So ask yourself one honest question. What in your daily routine feels small, but repeats often enough to shape your future? Because that's where control hides, and once you see it clearly, you don't just save money, you change direction.